Hi and welcome to the Digital Learning Design course at Bradford College. My name is Richard Nelson and I'm going to be the tutor on the course and take you through a lot of the teaching, learning and assessment. There may be other tutors that come in and check out and offer their advice and guidance, but for the moment you've got me. Just want to show you first of all is the website. Okay, so everything you're going to be doing over the next few weeks is going to be on the richardnelsononline.co.uk website, and on there at the top there is a link to DLD, Digital Learning Design, and that is the suite of courses that we're currently running to do with digital education. Clicking on that link brings you to this page here, the Digital Learning Design page, and at the moment there's just some links to the introduction. This will begin to fill up with more content as we go through the course. Didn't want to put everything on at once just so you don't know where to go, what's happening. So first of all, we're just going to do a bit of an introduction. So soon, once I've done this video, it will appear here and you'll be able to watch me again and again if you want, and also have a look at the handbook and a few other bits we're going to cover in a moment. So the first thing I want to get across about the course, Digital Learning Design, it's all about creating quality learning resources that you can use in a classroom situation, an online situation, a blended learning situation, flipped teaching, whatever method of delivery you want to use. We're going to look at the different tools and techniques you can put into place to make learning happen effectively. Now, we can, if we want, look at doing complete online learning, or look at just doing individual small resources that you use to support what you do within the classroom, for example. It's going to be totally up to you. It's very project based. Other than getting some of the basics and learning some of the techniques, the assessment, the stuff I need back from you to see how you're learning and developing is going to be the projects you're working on. So it'd be really good if you could start thinking about resources you'd like to create or technologies you'd like to try, and ideally technologies that you've never tried before. And that's what we want to have a look at. I know some of you have done some courses with me before, or some of you have filled in my online form and said about your experiences of online learning and e-learning, and it'd be good if you could try and explore some other places. I'll just show you what the courses look like. There are two different courses running simultaneously. One is the Digital Learning for Educators at level 4 and the Digital Learning Design Diploma at level 4. Two different courses. The content is pretty much the same, but what is assessed is slightly different. You can do the Digital Learning Educators in a shorter time. The Digital Learning Design Diploma is meant to be done over a whole year to give you enough time to do all the learning, and there's lots of different units to get assessed against, and I'll tell you all about that later. The Digital Learning Educators program can be done in a shorter time, say about 20 weeks, and in there it's more focused on creating sessions, creating teaching sessions, whether online, offline or blended, that use some of this technology you're exploring, and it's very focused on looking at curriculum theory, pedagogy, and then using that technology to support that learning. And then ultimately you start creating ideas and concepts for actual teaching sessions. And also you have to show how you're going to disseminate that. So you need a dissemination plan, which is one of the last tasks, where you talk about how you're going to tell your colleagues and spread the word about digital learning design. The Digital Learning Diploma is much more of a full-length course. It is a proper full-year course, and often this can be done as either an apprenticeship or a standalone course. So some people on this course are actually being classed as apprentices because they're learning to be digital learning designers. Others are just doing it as a Digital Learning Design Diploma. You don't need to worry about that. I'll talk to you individually about that. But just to let you know, it is a proper full-length course, so there is a lot of work in there, so you have to make that decision whether you want to do it. But it does cover some great stuff. So you need to think about, well, do you want to do the full diploma or whether you go for the Digital Learning Educators Award? At the moment, you can't do the Educators Award then move on to Digital Learning Design. They work alongside each other. They're not really a progression. So just to let you know that. And they are proper level 4 qualifications. I will be assessing you, but this will be put to an exam board, so you will get a proper certification from an examination authority. When I do my assessment of your work, someone will check that assessment, so you'll have an IV, part of the IQA process, an internal verifier will check what I've done to make sure I've assessed you effectively against the standards. That work then gets submitted to an external verifier who will ultimately sign it off, and they work for a company called Ascentis. So the exam board we're using is Ascentis, just to let you know about that. So there's 2 levels. I put the handbooks on there so you can explore them. Well, let's go and have a look. Let's go and have a look at the handbook, see if I can bring one up. So straight away, this one here, this is the Digital Learning Educators. So in this handbook, I've outlined the introduction to the course, talking about what the aims are, and you can highlight those aims and how they relate to your work in practice. It would be good to put across, and that's how you can make a decision on where you want to go from this. There's also an appeals procedure, just to let you know, because I have to, that you can appeal to the college should you not be happy with the grades I give or that the IV gives, and you can also appeal to the Ascentis examination board as well, and all the details are in your handbook. The assessment, as I said, and I'll talk more about this in a bit, is portfolio based. You will be creating project information, and both you and I will work through the project and work out which criteria it links to. And I've tried to set the tasks up in such a way that as you do tasks or create projects that link to the tasks, it's quite straightforward to see which criteria they map against. And further in this handbook is some more of the criteria. You can have a look later. In both handbooks, and I'll show you the other one in a minute, I've outlined a suggested timeline. And what I mean by suggested is that if you were to follow it in a linear way, I do each of the areas of development within the course, this would be a way of doing it in a sort of logical pattern. So I set up some tasks where if you follow that through, you sort of build on your knowledge and skills. But I know some of you are really keen to get the project up and running. Your workplace is after things, or you've got ideas that you want to try and set up something and give something a go. So if you want to jump in and start doing projects, we can definitely work with that, because then what I'll do is I'll work backwards and we'll start adding the knowledge and skills into that, and we can work on that tangible product that you're creating. But it's just a suggested one. And I've also offered some ideas of possible evidence over here. And what I'm after really is lots of rich evidence of you exploring the world of technology and creating learning resources. So even though it's a level 4 qualification, and we do have to have some rigour in there of some sort of academia, I will expect you to do some research and justify your choices. But still, that we can do all that within multimedia if needs be. So if you want to audio record yourself and evidence, or if you want to video yourself, or even type stuff up, you can do. And we'll talk about that more as we go through the course. Further into the handbook then, there's a series of tasks I've set out. And these tasks pick up on the key areas that you need to cover throughout the course. The first one is what you're going to be starting today, and that's the personal and professional development section. And it's quite a nice starting point because it sort of sets the scene, the context of who you are, the organisation you sit in, the type of learners you have. It sets that scene, so anyone reading your portfolio, i.e. me who's marking it, and any externals and anybody you want to showcase it to, gets that scene set. And it'll also be fantastic because I'd like to come back to this skill set and development and monitor it again to show how you developed over the course, because you're going to progress quite quickly and you're going to really enjoy yourself, and it'd be good to show that from a starting point all the way to an end point. So that's the first task, is the personal and professional development. I'll come back to that in the next video. Other tasks for the Educators Award is researching learning technology. So a bit of background research for you to do, see what's out there and what thoughts you've got about what would work in your subject area. And also, then the experimenting task. That's the bit where you get to play. You'll find technology. I'll also give you some ideas of other technology you might want to try and explore, and you can make them into mini projects and little trials and tryouts. And I might also be able to put some real world projects in there. There's a lot of companies and departments within colleges and schools that would like somebody to have a look at some tools for them, and we could do that as part of this, which will enhance your portfolio and also think great stuff for your CV and great stuff for your own development. So that's the experimenting section. There's a lot on open educational resources there, so we'll come back to that later. Task 4 is the exciting one. Get into the projects, create stuff. I do want you though to think them through properly. So we will be following a project life cycle, just to let you know that. I want a bit of planning in there. I want a project to happen, and I want some evaluation. We'll come on to that when we talk about project planning later. And ultimately, in the Digital Educators Award is the dissemination task, a plan for how you're going to, give out this information and send it back. So that's all within the Digital Educators Award. So have a think about whether that's the level you want, but I do need to know by the end of the week if it's something you want to do. The other full diploma, I'll just bring that handbook up, is the Digital Learning Design Diploma at level 4. So the handbook is very similar layout. The introductions there, aims are there. Also the appeals procedure. Remember I mentioned that earlier just in case. The assessments is the same. I want portfolio set up. I want lots of evidence of project-based learning. You doing stuff and trying stuff out. And if you can, as you're doing all this learning and experimenting, is in your portfolios, make notes, just write stuff. Say, I tried this today, it worked, or I tried this, it didn't work, and what will I do to maybe get over that, or maybe it's just not suitable for my learners. Lots of conversation happening. So we'll come on to your portfolio a bit later. The assessment, I've said, is the same. I've put a suggested timeline in there. It is a lot longer, in particular because there's a lot more knowledge and skills to be developed, as well as the projects themselves need to be a little bit more, they end up being a lot bigger and a lot more time consuming, because you're in there developing stuff but linking back to a lot of this theoretical research. But you're going to have a great grounding on everything to do with digital learning technology and online learning and blended learning. It's a fantastic course to pick up all that stuff. So similar to the one we just seen earlier, I've set it out into tasks, and the first task is exactly the same. This is personal and professional development. I do want to know this level. Where is everyone at? The benchmark, what your organisation's like, what your learners are like, to do with digital literacy skills, really to firm out the distance you're going to have to travel to make things happen. So that's in there, same task as before, and we'll cover that in the task video. It then goes on to look at, if you follow it through task by task, things like legislation, the science of learning design, user experience design, very important in understanding how people might react, because you never know how they are going to react. The project planning phase and investigating corporate standards. This is quite important if you want to start creating quality products that could be sold on, or it could become a financial incentive for either the organisation or yourself if you become a digital learner designer, or sometimes called instructional designer. So in there, corporate standards is quite useful to keep an eye on. Some of you may know this already, but I've put it in there, and it'll be from a digital learning design point of view, just so you've covered that base and you can have quality products that are consistent with a particular style. Then on to the projects. So in the projects part, you've got a life cycle to follow, exactly the same as whichever course you follow. And also in there, I've suggested links to particular theories and concepts of digital learning design. And you will be looking at these different sections. So looking at video work within digital learning design, looking at gamification, which is quite a hot topic at the moment, and digital storytelling, which if you get the storytelling right, it doesn't half make your digital learning resources a lot smoother, a lot more enjoyable, and people get it. And that's what we'll be looking at on this course. In there, as well as the accessibility stuff, the safe use of digital learning technology, so a bit more safeguarding on there, just you need to check your projects against that and relate it into safeguarding. And also managed learning environments. What I mean by that is VLEs, so things like Moodle or Blackboard and their alternatives. We're going to cover all of that if you do the diploma in digital learning design. At the end of each of the handbooks, there's an indication of the different modules and units you've covered for the award, and I'll do all this stuff about assessing and signing off, and as I said, it'll get IV'd, so someone will go through the IQA process and check that I've done everything right. And also at the end of the handbook is every single criteria you're going to be covering. Now you don't need to worry about this right now, but later on, and I'll need your help to start mapping this stuff across. We'll work together on mapping what you've done against the criteria, and that gives you the confidence that you've done it. It gives me the confidence that I've seen it happening, and also we can see if there's any tweaks needed or any additional bits of information that we need to look at to sort of make sure we hit all the criteria. So we'll come on to that much later. So for now, I'd just like to flip back to the course. So remember, everything's going to be on the DLD link within Richard Nelson Online dldeintro.co.uk. I really hope you're going to enjoy the course. Well, I know you'll enjoy the course. I really hope you get the most out of it you can. I really need to know, though, sooner rather than later, which one you're going to be deciding to work with, whether you want to be digital learning for educators or go for the whole hog of the digital learning design diploma. So I'll email you at the end of the week and see what your thoughts are on that. So the next video, really recommend you watch straight after this, and it'll be about how I'm going to record your assessment, or how you're going to record the assessment, and how I'm going to be able to tick it off and mark it. And with that, we're going to be creating a portfolio. So go straight to the next video and have a look at the portfolio system we're going to be using.